Hey everyone, how you doing? This is GeForce41 here. Welcome to a playthrough of my work in progress, Romanov na Murmane. I thought I'd start doing some content this year and got a nice new microphone. Hopefully I sound okay. I'm getting over a little bit of a cold, so my apologies if I'm a little off on my voice here. But hey, I wanted to start doing a few of these. And what I wanted to do today is a preview of my next course I'm porting over. Romanov Nam Remain was my entry into the National Treasure contest of 2 years ago now. And that was a contest where you were assigned a country, and I was the lucky winner of Russia, because we all know how much golf is played in Russia and how many courses I had to compare it to. So, seriously, it was fun exercise, something creative for me. I tend to make a lot of my courses in the Northeast here. I'm in Massachusetts and grew up in the Northeast, so I have a lot of Maine, New York, Massachusetts type courses with a few odds and ends sprinkled in, right? I did a course in Scotland recently and had some in Arizona and California. But anyway, so I ventured off into Russia, and what I did here was the port city of Murmansk. I had to come up with something that looked like Russia, and basically went with the cranes, the looks, the ports with the ships and the cranes and things like that. So we'll talk about that, a little bit of how I design and how what my brain kind of goes through when I'm doing this. But this is a work in progress, so I thought that might be interesting. Some things that I'm looking at right now, and we'll find things in there that need to be updated. So I thought that might be a little interesting for you. Settings, I'm going to play the back tees, which are the blues. I'm on pin 4 in my kind of testing. I test and play and tweak and all that fun stuff. Got a little bit of wind coming in from the water, so it's going to be medium northeast. My crowds are on because we love T-ready courses at the casuals. And let's give it a go. All right, here we go. So as I said, it is built on the port city of Murmansk, Russia, and the original name of the city is Romanov na Murmane, and henceforth the name of my course, which I thought was one of my better names. It's always kind of hard to name these things, folks. So, thought that was a fun idea. So you'll see here, my idea for this course was to kind of start up on the hill, on top of this, very familiar Highlands theme now that we're many years into this game and this designer. And I wanted a view of the harbor, of the bay, and kind of have that view of the ships and the cranes and things like that, because that's kind of what stuck out to me when I was researching different locations for this course. So everything's kind of got a view. It's kind of wide open around the course. I've filled in the sides of the course this time with some evergreens. It was a little sparse in my 2K21 version, but you'll see that here. It was all kind of framed around this kind of look in this view of the seaport. Okay, so here we go. I've touched up the behind tees a little bit, and there you go. There's your view down the hill, 52 feet down the hill. And you can see off in the distance there are the ships, and you can make out the cranes just barely from a distance, and those are supposed to be gas tanks or something, right? That's the best I can come up with, folks. But so here we go. The hillside, you can say I've touched up a little on the distance. I think I got to work on that a little bit to make it a little bit more visually appealing, but looks pretty good. This thing right here is actually there more for the to prevent people from coming down the first fairway off of 18. But you'll see some of these grassless bunkers throughout the course in the middle of the fairways. Oops, sorry. But let's head down the hill. All right, you don't want to be left here, so we're going to be off to the right. There we go. A little draw, nicey nice. Should be in a good position. We're heading down the hill towards the water, as you can see. So I've added a few trees in the middle. Might add a few more, but not many, because I want to keep those views up. Here's, again, left is kind of trouble, folks, to say the least, right? It's a pretty elevated green. It's a hard drop. That's actually the third fairway way down here. That's a big drop, actually. So some of these cliffs and drops were pretty severe. That was on purpose. Why? Because it's a golf course in Russia, and I didn't want to make it particularly traditional. I wanted some uniqueness to it, some character. So you're going to see some severe kind of land changes. I've actually sculpted them down a little bit. I've calmed them down so far in the 2K23 version. But, you know, like I said, we're about maybe 80-90% done here. And I pulled it pretty much what you don't want to do here. A little fast, but that should hang up just fine. I've added some fences. Gonna add a few more thanks to the new spline option, which is huge. I know some folks are not happy with the designer. Hey, I'm a PlayStation 4 designer. I'm happy with it. It obviously has some upgrades. People were looking for more. It would have been nice. I certainly agree with that. But the added splines, I'll take it. And it's a little bit faster for me on PlayStation. Up and down. Not much, but little. And it, just with the planting and such. You know, that's my biggest complaint. It's just, I'm slow to begin with, and it takes forever and a day on PlayStation to begin with. So, all right, downhill, this bunkerless bunker comes into play. I got to touch that up a little. It's a big turn here, so I gave you a big hill. If you catch this just right, it's going to knock you right down into position into that little flat area. Now, depending on the wind in your tees, you can clear this, and there are your options, right? You can be bold. Here we've got the wind in our face. I'm hitting at about 302 these days with the, I've got the sculptor archetype. You can put one down here to be safe or out here, but I don't think a lot of people are going to do that. This is going to be tough if you hit it too far right. You're not going to hold this fairway. You've got to get it just right. So if you threw it out here, you might actually wind up in here. So you got a few options. I'm just going to go right kind of down in here. And again, is this whole shape kind of the same as the first one? Yeah. But we've got to get this course routed a little bit. The routing is unusual. That's on purpose. There you go. Got the hill just nice. I wanted something different, right? I didn't want a traditional course. So I think I have 5 par 5s and 5 par 3s. This green slopes pretty severely. I want to say severely, but slopes predominantly front to back. We're going down the hill. I thought that would follow the terrain naturally. I've toned down the speed of the greens. I made them a little softer. I don't know if I'm going to do any more with that, but we'll see. So here we go. I might give it a little spin. See if that's going to hold. It's not going to roll. It's going to roll back. Okay, it's not bad. So some new plant. I got to fix that planting over there on the side. Those bushes are huge. I found that be a big problem when I've poured it over. Turn. A lot of the bushes I buried and put around for kind of like scrubby, brushy areas. The default bushes are just huge, and I had to redo basically everything on Gratchmore. Took me about 2-3 weeks. I had to do most of the planting over again, but came out nice, so I'm happy with it. Okay, third hole, back up the hill. Like I said, the routing's a little unusual, but I kind of wanted to get back up the hill so we can go back down the hill, and it was time for par 5. This is reachable if you've got the wind at your back and you're hitting it pretty long, which most people are these days. Wind in your face, you are not going to reach this one, most likely, unless you hit one absolutely perfect and you're bombing it. So you want to be as left as you can here, but you've got these bunkers and this hill over here to contend with. The wind is helping. Let's see what happens. Pretty good. Now, the only problem with being up here, it's a little blind, but that's all right. We're going to get as much as we can into this one, but you do want to be left. And that's going to be pretty good. Go. There you go. So as you can see, I barely made it, and that was with help from the wind. If you don't have help from the wind, you've got a problem. Okay, I need to touch up that planting behind the green. Those bushes are ginormous. Not bad. Oh, it's trickling. So you can see I've got the greens running at 169. It was about 178, I think, in the first version. I keep it up there just for scheduling. I like faster greens. Get in, please. But I want to give schedulers options. And so I kind of leave it in between the fast and the very fast. I'm trying to make courses that are used in tournaments. So if you know me, I'm a designer for the casuals, and my courses are going to be used there. And a lot of my courses are on TGC tours. Dan on Kinetic uses most of my courses, and that's greatly appreciated. He's a great guy and one of the best schedulers around, that's for sure. So greatly appreciated when anybody uses my courses. So with that being said, if you ever want to use my courses or you do use my course, feel free to let me know. I'm open for, questions, suggestions, feedback, setup, things like that. This is your, standard. Don't forget this was a contest course, right? Drivable par 4. I know folks like these. I'm not a huge fan of them, but I know folks like them. So I try to put one in each course. Here the goal is, kind of distance control. It's 30 feet downhill. The wind's going to play a factor. This is the type of course, if you want more of a challenge, you definitely crank up the wind, right? It's an ocean kind of links course, so that's a little bit on the realistic side if that's what you're going for. And then, what's the risk here? Well, if you push it, you're going 40 feet, 60 feet down the hill. You got a little bunkerless bunker right there, and you got one in the middle of the fairway. So with the wind in my face, it's only 5 miles an hour. It pins up front. Let's see what happens. I think usually that's a pretty good bet to run one up there in the front. Oh, screen just jumped. Oh, hit the flag. And we're going off the back. So, got a nifty little chip here. We'll gently throw it off to that hill, and that's going to be too much. Too much. You can see the cranes in the background. A little closer here, you'll see it on the next couple of holes as well. I'm just going to putt from there. I'm not a fan of those green chippers out there, folks, and even though I'm a few inches off in the new game, I think it's more accurate, usually, if you're not talking while you're putting, maybe. So there you go. Awesome job. Simple little par 4 that's drivable, and I'm going to wind up with a bogey. Great. Oh, well. All right, moving on to the first par 3. This is a nifty one. I like the location I found for this course. I did a lot of build some terrain and some hills and some cliffs and find 18 holes. It wasn't planned out. It was overall structure was kind of top down planned out, but not the holes. I just went out and found the routing and found holes, which is a fun way to design. I don't often do that. It's the most fun way. It's also the most risky way because you might not wind up with something good or that you like. You might have to start over. So I think I did on this one. It was the first version I had a toss, and this was the second version I did. I toned the screen down a lot. It's the same kind of shape, but it was a much hillier green. This was a big hill back here in the first version. I lowered this huge bunker. It looked silly and not realistic. I got rid of the bunkers on the sides. I might fill that in with the brush. I'm not sure if I'm going to do that yet. And I smoothed the front a little. For any designers out there or newer designers, that's actually something you need to pay attention to that I did not for a long time, is the entrance to the greens. Make them look realistic and not too much of a bump. What you'll find a lot, and especially in my earlier courses I was guilty of, is you have a little bit of a hill here and then it just drops straight down, and it's just not realistic. So a little smoother transition into the fairway. It still can be uphill, right? This is an elevated green, as a lot of my greens are and the greens I play are, but you can see that's a realistic looking entrance, and you can probably run one up there. All right, so again, you got a nice view of the harbor, and you got a long 229 down 23. Let's see what happens. I'm going to put it right. We're going to do a little of this. Actually, I like to shape it. I'm going to fade one in there, but I blocked it to the right. It's going to be short right and into what might be a bunker or a little bit of brushy area. And I don't know about you folks, but I do that a lot in real life. Time for an up and down. Hopefully that will roll nicely. I think this green is much better than the original. Yeah, it looks much better. And totally missing the putt. So I think putting is something I need to work on, obviously. I'm not the greatest player in the world, but I certainly enjoy it. All right. Love this one. This is one of my favorites that I made in the original. I have not done much here. The goal here was kind of have a tee shot off the kind of hill here, this cliff, and have a shot of the port district down here, and a view of the cranes, etc., off in the distance, and down to a fairway this is the most slopey fairway on the course. I don't do a lot of the bumpy kind of fairways with the nooks and crannies. It's not my strength, and I know a lot of people like those. That's certainly a Ben, a B101 characteristic. He loves those fairways that you watch the ball roll, and the ground game is huge. I'm just not particularly adept at it, but this one came out really nice, I thought. So I have barely touched this hole. I think I flattened the green somewhat. And I adjusted the tee box a little, but let's see what happens. Nice shot into distance. You see the water up ahead here. If you're on the front tees and you got the wind at your back, that water is going to come into play. So any of you who will be playing the up tees and like to bomb it, you're going to have to think a little. Again, I think this is just a cool little view. Little uphill shot. This is a 4-hole location. It's tucked in the corner a little bit. Little downhill slope. Wind in our face, and I fasted it again. And that's going to hit the hill. Hopefully stay on that first level. Yeah. So some of the planting needs to be touched up in the distance. Certainly. Again, I wanted the rough kind of unkempt look here. This is not a country club. This is a course in a very cold section of Russia that happens to be green because of the water. And I did all the research on this back in the day. If something that interests you, look it up. But, I can fix that fence off in the distance back there. Thought it was an interesting location. You can see behind me there's a lighthouse, and I was going to put a monument up there. I'm trying to think how to do it best. Might still do it if I have time and a good idea, but I have a good idea, I just don't know how to execute on the idea. So I've touched up the sculpting on these hills a little. They look a little bit more realistic. I think I could do more to the hills off to the left, kind of give it that same look I had on Grashmore. That worked out well. You can see the road there in the distance. That would be a whole lot easier now with the splines. That took me forever and a day because you got to lay it out in that. It's the wall is really what that line is. You got to do it one by one. And that was not fun. Not fun at all. Like I said, I'm a slow designer, and so doing anything extra like that can be kind of painful for me. I enjoy it, but there comes a point where you've been working on the thing for 2-3 hours and you're all done. I like this hole. Again, it's a rugged look, uphill tee shot. It's a good location for a green. I like that kind of elevated fairway we were hitting to. Look at that. Hey, he hits a putt. I like these cut scenes. I think it's much better than the silly instant replays that you get. You still get those sometimes, but it gives you a view of the course. It helps you show off the course a little as a designer. Now it makes you think because you're going to get those cutscenes, and you're going to see parts of the course you probably wouldn't have in the other games. So it's both a help and a challenge as a designer. Make sure all areas of your course are looking pretty sharp. All right, short downhill par 3. I fixed this green. It was a little too slopey and silly. I narrowed it somewhat to make it more of a, short par 3 challenge. You can see it's almost like a shoe footprint kind of shape. Fix the bunkers a little. Really, it's just a play on, your distance control. 132 down the hill, got the wind, and a big drop. It's right on it. If I got the distance right, which I didn't, it's going to be close. There you go. And just a little bit of left and a little bit of right. Too much. Right through the break. Way too much. Super way too much. And I pulled the chip. Short game is not my friend so far. There we go. And another simple hole I managed to mess up. So there you go, 3 bogeys on my own course. On the front so far. Alright, 9th hole. I like this fairway. There's a little bit of a hump here. You're going to have some trouble if you're moving to the right and you hit that hill to the right. You might wind up in that little valley there. Otherwise, you really want to be up here normally to most of the hole locations, but this is the 4 locations, so you do want to be a little right here, because obviously it's going to be a better approach if you have that angle over here. You've got the tavern off in the distance. I gave it a name. I can't think of what I called it in the first version. Something Taverna. I looked it up. But halfway cafe kind of thing. Halfway bar or something like that. Because this is the 9th hole. And it's basically out, right? It's kind of like a links. It goes, the clubhouse is way up there somewhere. And you come down here for 9 and you go back up 10 and back up and around. So it's not a, go out and in, back at 9 at the clubhouse like a traditional kind of, Parkland or US type course. So I gave a little clubhouse there. I think I planted a little bit more, made it look more interesting, and of course I blocked it right again. But I'll have an angle, that's for sure. It's not that long of a shot. Make sure I get it there. It's a little long, I think, but we'll just give it a little spin, and I pulled that. Give me a kick. Look at this. Get! Oh. I gotta replant there. Otherwise, so far, the work I've done on the hole seemed to be working. I'm not playing well around the greens, and it's showing, and the course is doing what it should do, and it's not unreasonable. So I think I've tamed it down somewhat while still maintaining a sense of challenge and some good slopes and contours on the greens. But that's the point of testing it, right? So, all right, 4 bogeys on the front. Excellent, 2 over. Let's put a stop to that nonsense, shall we? All right, par 5 again, starting off the back again. Here are the goals. Another kind of nice view type hole going down the hill. You can still see the ships, etc., off in the distance. If you look at this way, there you go. Ideally, you want to be off to the right a little bit. Now it's a little bit of a cut through over here. You're getting a little bit shorter approach from over here. And up here is going to be more of an angle. Of course, you've got the hill and this little bunkerless bunker. This was a regular bunker, I think, in the first version. I made all the fairway bunkers these kind of bunkerless ones. If I missed one, I intend to. I thought it was just an interesting feature. Something different. I'm going to go up here. We got the wind in our face. You got a strong wind. This is going to be a little bit more difficult. But to get up this hill, right? Because that's the risk here, is that you don't make it up that hill. I'm going to give it everything here because it's an uphill lie. We got wind in our face. Put it way off to the right there. Watch it come back in. And it's going to be too much, believe it or not. I thought with that lie, it was going to be just right. It's okay. Let's make a decent chip here. A little softer that time. I am not gonna miss this putt. Hey! Back to 1 over. The 11th. This was an interesting one. I've definitely tamed this down a little bit. This was a cool one. I got a lot of positive feedback on it. It's very memorable and dramatic on the first version. You've got the view over here to the right, obviously the harbor. You've got a severe drop off to the right, which you're basically toast if you fall way down there. So if you're faint of heart, you want to play it out to the left, where you've got a little bit more of a cushion. This was much slopier in the original. I kept the kind of naturalness of the contours, right? This is obviously going to move towards the shoreline and down towards the water. So this pin is tucked. You're much, you can breathe a little easier if you're shooting at the other hole locations, which are over here. Gonna go a $184. A little bit of loft, a little bit of spin, and I'm not gonna mess with that hill. That hill should help. Bring it right down. Hey! There you go. A little further left. That would have been nice. So the hill there is going to help you. That is by design. I know folks enjoy and appreciate those slopes that help you. Which, oh, hello. Well, that slope really did help. That's unintentional, so I'm going to have to look at that. Shouldn't really ever have a putt that goes that far backwards. So that's why we test them, folks. Okay. Okay, another par 5. I really like this tee shot too when this hole. A little bit different. It's kind of this crescent-shaped fairway. You have a little bit of a forced carry here. If you have the wind in your face from the back, this is going to be tough to carry. But that's where you want to be. That's going to be a nice, easy shot in to this green. Again, you want to be off to the left as much as you can because you're facing that kind of fall off to the right. This wind isn't very hard. Even though I have it set at medium, it's not even 10 miles an hour. So I'm just going to go out here. See what happens. So a lot of the stuff here is just way different than I usually do, which made it fun. It just also made it tough to pull off. But that's what it's all about. Getting a little creative and trying something different. That's a tough little hole location. So we'll see what happens here. Ah, it stopped. Put some spin on it. All right. It's straight putt. Up and down. The bird. All right. So, I gotta fix that planting back there. See, those bushes just look huge behind me? Ridiculous. Now the 2 par 3s back to back. So I think one of the requirements in that tournament was back-to-back par 3s or par 5s or something like that. I think it was... we had 2 different requirements, if I remember correctly. But anyway, so I thought it'd be interesting, the 2 kind of slightly uphillish par 3s back-to-back. That fit in the unusual nature of the course that I was going for. So this one is about $180 or so up the hill. And again, this pin is tucked. We're playing the 4th pin hole locations, and they're a little bit more tucked, shall we say. But let's see if a draw does anything here. That'll work if I get a bounce. Yeah, that's not bad. Not bad. That's a tough little spot, though. I have to test that a little more on the designer. Make sure that's gettable. 83 feet. Oop of the hill. And I didn't even get it close. Alright. So that's the first par 3. So there you can see there's 3 par 3s and 3 par 5s on the back. A little bit unique. Alright, this one's a little shorter. Pin is up. 150, 130. With the wind, I'm just going to leave it. See what happens. Pushed it, though. That's not going to be bad. Not going to be good. Come on. Ooh. Little too much. Wasn't high enough. Oh, come on. Terrible putt. Although this is, yeah, it's a little too slopey. I think that needs to be flattened. And another one. So this is now nice downhill par 5. Excuse me. So got the remnants of that cold. Big downhill. This is your just bomb it down the hill hole. Go for your long drive. Another view of the harbor and the ships and the cranes and all that fun stuff. But with this drop, I think I hit him like 360 or whatever. This is just to have fun and bombs away down the hill. Fairway's angled a little. It's not super wide, so you do have to be careful. With this wind pushing it that way, I'm going to go a little that way and a little bit of a fade. See what happens. I pulled it a little, but that's going to be just good. 340, 358. So I'm sure some of you can probably get it up to close to 400 for crying out loud with the wind behind you. All right, this one is not an elevated green. Yay! Because there's a lot of those on this course. I know some of you like to roll it kind of in there. You got one of those here. If I just throw that up there, it's pretty good. Just for the wind. That should bring it in nicely. There you go. It's a little firmer than I thought. Throw it down the hill here. See if I learned anything. Nope. That is awful. That looks like how I putt in real life. Wow. Just I don't have any distance control. Pace. Pace is more important than line when you putt, right? Talking real life here. Important. Know what I learned this year? Pick your pace first, then pick your line. I think I habitually picked the line and then thought about the pace that would have to be used to make that line work, which is the best way to putt. Figure out that pace first and then pick your line. Great advice. Okay, 16, another bunker in the middle here. You can see the stream I put in the middle for effect. I'm not a big fan of the waterfalls, but I needed the water level to go down. So I had to put a bunch of waterfalls in this one, which I never really do. So that took quite some time to get these right. It looks pretty, right? So that plan I could probably touch up a little. I'm going to throw this off to the right with that hole way over there. See what happens. It's actually a pretty good spot, as good as you can get. So obviously these hole locations, being the 4 location, are a little tougher. I try to vary them up. Make sure each round, each set of pins has something interesting. I don't want to make all of them tough. You know, even though people tend to go with the Sunday hole locations. You do want to do that for effect in case you are in a tournament and you're playing multiple rounds of the course. Alright, I'll take that. Now 17, this is an interesting one. Bends back down the hill. You've got the water to contend with here if you push it too far right. Or too straight, so to speak. This is a play on how much you want to cut off again. It's actually a really good play just to throw a 3-wood up here and use the hill to bring it down into a really good spot and a full wedge in. I like to hit 3-wood a lot in real life, to be honest with you. You see that a lot of my courses are big on 3-wood options in a lot of the holes. I had an interesting bit of feedback on this hole from someone, I forget who said this would be interesting, make it drivable. I thought about that, but that would change the hole dramatically. You'd have to bring that green way up or bring the tees way up, and then it just wouldn't make sense because you wouldn't have this kind of fairway. You'd have the fairway here, but you'd be hitting an iron into it, for crying out loud. So I thought about that, but it's basically, do you really want to cut this off? I mean, you've got 70 feet. If you got the wind behind you, this is almost drivable. So that was kind of the idea, is to really tempt you to go for this green, even though you're not going to get there. I forget where the up tee is. If the up tee is there and you've got wind at your back and you guys are bombing it with these new archetypes that you have, you actually might get there from the front. But let's see what happens. I'm just curious, going right at it. And again, you see the whole, the design of this course was you get these views of the harbor and the ships and the cranes in the distance on as many holes as you possibly can. So I'm trying to keep, this is the last view. Obviously, it's 17, 18 is going to go the opposite way. But again, I thought this was a pretty hole and just a pretty view. And then it's fun to bomb it down the hill. That's going to work. Get into the fairway. And then, you can do these things and you're left with what? What do I got here? A pitch. 89 yards, 90. These tweeners, this is going to be a full pitch, which is fine. Sometimes I try to goad you into these. Because they're not that easy, especially if you're in between. And you do something stupid like that, right? Another terrible chip. There you go. There's a decent putt. Off to 18. I'm 1 under. Par 5 up the hill again. I touched up this water here. Again, this is just a factor of the routing. I need to get back to the clubhouse. Thought a par 5 would be nice to end on. Again, it's uphill, so you do have 2 pretty substantial par 5s uphills, 3 and 18. They are going in practically the same direction, but I counter that with the other par 5s that are either shorter or going way downhill and are easy to reach. So this one's going to be a little bit more challenging to reach depending on the tees and the wind. Could be a pretty tee shot as well if I can think of exactly what to do with that water. I got rid of the planting, so I haven't started on the new planting, and it was a little rockier, and I might put some rocks back in there. I don't know what I'm going to do, but going to make that more visually appealing. Hold that a little. The hill will help. It's going to be a bit of a blind approach. But you do have a peek at the hole. It's off to the right. A bunch of these hole locations are off to the right. I might have to think of switching a few of these. I updated some planting, put some fences around the clubhouse. Simple little putt to finish. Hey! And he finishes with an eagle. There you go. So 69, not bad after a terrible 2-over on the front. So there it is. That's a preview of Romanov na Murmane. It should be ready, well, a couple weeks. As you see, I have some touching up to do with the planting and some finishing touches, maybe even out some greens, and maybe switch around a few hole locations. But I hope you enjoyed it. If you have any feedback, let me know, and we'll be talking again soon. All right? Thank you so much for joining. Bye for now.